Aloha kako, half a day. Welcome to Tangata Pasifika. On the show today, how culture impacts the financial well-being of young Pacific people. That's the focus of a new study. We look at the whys and the wherefores in Aotearoa. In our Pacific News Wrap, the Solomon Islands help to break ICT barriers.
Women hold a smaller percentage of jobs in computing and mathematics jobs.
And we meet Samoan filmmaker Ursula Grace Williams in her journey to document Māori recording artist Marlon Williams' new album.
I felt like this is something that needs to be documented for the rest of Aotearoa because it's going to be uplifting.
Tāhua, kia ora na tātou katoa and po Pongimania. Thanks for joining us. So, as we mentioned, a new study is setting out to explore the cultural impacts of young Pacific people's financial well-being. It's being conducted by Massey Business School PhD student Vika Namoa, who joins us for Aotearoa. Vika, malo lelei.
Thank you, John, for having me on the program this morning.
Welcome to our program. Now, let's talk about this research. Tell us more about it.
Thank you, John, for the opportunity. So the research is based on the cultural influences and other factors that it has on young Pacific people in New Zealand. It's a fairly new study, and so working along our Financial Education Centre to sort of look deeper into understanding the reason why, as per the latest research conducted by Retirement Commission, we Pacific people hold the lowest score when it comes to financial well-being. So there has been no reasons to understand the reasons behind these statistics. This research hopes to sort of address that and look further into developing, culturally appropriate tools to help our people in that space.
Oh, yeah. So where are you at this stage with the research?
I'm currently in the data collection phase, and so I'll be using two key methods. The online survey that's been made available, and also a follow-up Talanoa session, just to get a better understanding of these issues behind, holding the lowest financial well-being score.
How did you come up with this topic? Is this maybe something from your own experience?
Definitely. As my very first proper job after graduation, I was in a graduate role where I was sort of exposed to how financially illiterate our people was. And so being in that space sort of sparked an interest, and it grew sort of, it became a passion to understand the underlying issues and to how to better support that space. And I guess that's where I've been sort of focusing around areas where we could areas where we could support our people. So
tell us about these cultural challenges that impact our financial well-being.
So I've also been additional to the work that I'm currently doing at the university, I'm also fortunate enough to have secured a few hours of financial mentoring, and I am in the early stages to sort of talk about cultural factors in terms of my research, but in this financial mentoring role, I've come across a lot of, we as Pacific people, culture is part of our identity, but in which then kind of leads to questioning where do we, to what level do we go to sort of, provide financially for our people.
Is it an obligation?
Obligations
or is it pressure? What would you describe it as?
We like to stay away from using pressure, John, but we, as a Pacific person, we know growing up in our families, we get sort of told to do things, but these are cultural obligations like church donations, family obligations in terms of financially contributing to a family event that you barely have a say in. That's some of the stuff that's come up in this workspace. So.
Is this a concern? Have you spoken to the young people, and are they concerned about their future and their financial stability?
Definitely. This generation now has a different thinking when it comes to financial. That's something I've picked up on. We have a different thinking when it comes to financial matters. I think they're a bit more outspoken than the past generation in terms of what can we financially contribute to a family event, church donations, and events that we as Pacific people often get ourselves into debt trying to to fulfill these responsibilities.
So what happens from here? Where to next? And can people take part in this?
Oh, definitely. So the survey's been made available online in the article that I've shared, but also towards the end of the data collection phase, there is a Talanoa session, which that's something I want to use to, sit down with our people and create. So based on that, we will be able to create tools that would better support our Pacific people, not to eventually, wipe out the whole cultural part of the financial contribution, but more so to, offer appropriate, culturally relevant tools that can support, like me, myself as a young person, to fulfill our cultural duties, but also, live within your means of, your financial means. Yeah.
Well, Malo Pita for joining us, and we look forward to the results of your research.
Thank you, John.
All the best.
Thanks.
And if you are a Pacific person aged between 18 and 30, you can take part in the study. Just head to TP Plus to find the link there. Stay with us. When we come back, it's our Pacific News Wrap, and this week, Samoa swears in new citizens.
The Samoan citizenship is dear to us, for it is our identity, with the freedom to live harmoniously and peacefully.
Balolele Ali, welcome back to Tangata Pasifika. It's time now for our news wrap from the region, thanks to our partners at Pasifika TV PCBL. This week, Samoa sounds a warning about its dengue fever outbreak while welcoming new citizens. But first, the conclave to select the new Pope will have Pacific Islands cardinals. Gladys Hudson has the details.
The Pacific region will be represented at the table to vote in the next Pope after the death of Pope Francis. Natasha Ovoy has more.
Sir John Ribat noted that many cardinals will be in Rome for the event. However, notes 121 will participate in the election process.
And Cardinal John Duke of New Zealand and myself, so the three of us, will represent our region and the church here in our region, voting for a new pope.
To the Solomon Islands now, where more girls are being encouraged into the IT sector. Eliza Kukutu has more.
The women in ICT Solomon Islands WITSI joined others globally to celebrate the International Girls in ICT Day at the Mendana Hotel in Honiara on Thursday. This year's theme, Girls in ICT for Inclusive Digital Transformation, highlights the need to ensure equal access and opportunities for girls and young women in the digital world.
It's events like this one that give us optimism and hope for greater gender equality in the ICT sector. We know that unfortunately the numbers don't stack up so well in ICT. Women hold a smaller percentage of jobs in computing and mathematics jobs. Only a smaller number of women decide to pursue jobs in technology.
I think I'm important for Makina Day because of representation. We need to say that this is a very male-dominated field, and we need to get more girls into studying for ICT, the ICT field, STEM. So I think we need more girls to take on ICT and STEM subjects since it's a very male-dominated field. So.
Samoa's Ministry of Health are warning the public about misinformation around dengue fever. Deirdre Whanene with this report.
Deputy Director General of Health Tangaloa Dr. Robert Thompson is calling on the public, especially parents, not to trust misleading information circulating on social media regarding the dengue fever outbreak in Samoa. Tangaloa urges the public to seek medical advice from a doctor or visit the Ministry of Health's official Facebook page if they are unsure about any information related to the outbreak. Since January this year, a total of 16 cases of dengue fever have been confirmed in Samoa, with 1 death recorded.
Meanwhile, more than 40 individuals are celebrating becoming Samoan citizens. Moelefue Joachim Smith has this report.
This marks the first swearing-in ceremony since the pandemic began.
The Samoan citizenship is dear to us, for it is our identity, with the freedom to live harmoniously and peacefully in our lands. But it does come with responsibility. Responsibility to care and to love, to be law-abiding, to respect others, and to use God-given talents, wisdom, and knowledge to work together for the common good of Samoa.
To Fiji now, where politicians are debating trade relations and tariffs with the US and other countries.
On a weighted average basis, the average tariff on US imports stands at 1.8%.
And of course, if one looks at Fiji's exports, or in other words, the US imports from Fiji in proportion to total USA imports, which amounted to 4.1 trillion. In 2024, our proportion is merely 0.0001%. And I'm confident that we should be able to agree on a way forward well before the 90-day window closes.
Because we all know that Singapore literally imports everything from all around the world, and I think we don't send much out to them at all. It's a huge market for us. And I know for this much, sir, that they don't even need trade agreements. It's literally very easy to get in there.
And finally, Fiji's secondary schools athletics championships were held recently, and this year it included students from Samoa.
A team of 7 young athletes from Samoa is proudly competing across various events, representing their country with pride.
The Coca-Cola Games, it's kind of like, we always watch the Coca-Cola Games. And 2010 and 2013, I was watching these guys. But I always think of my son. I wish, Samoa can be part of this. But finally, now we have our time.
The support system back home, they're very supportive because they all know it's my first time here and it's my first time participating in these kind of games. But they understand and they really support it a lot.
Isa Wananavu. Okay, after the break, we catch up with award-winning documentary maker Ursula Grace Williams and her new film.
I heard that he was truly making this album in Te Reo Māori and he was placing his attention towards that. And I felt like this is something that needs to be documented for the rest of Aotearoa.
Yorana, welcome back to Tangata Pasifika. To the arts now, and Samoan filmmaker Ursula Grace Williams' latest work is in cinemas now. Ngā Ao e Rua, Two Worlds is an intimate documentary following singer-songwriter Marlon Williams as he writes and records his first album in Te Reo Māori. Soana Ahulelei caught up with Ursula and Marlon for the story.
The whole buzz of coming back was never about coming back. It was more about me getting to see my family, and then my wife, my kid.
Not afraid of stepping out of her comfort zone, Samoan film director Ursula Grace Williams has been making these heartfelt documentaries for almost 10 years.
When it came to filming something like Deportees of Tonga, it was really tricky.
I'm Tariauri Prescott, and I'm a gangster.
A lot of these men, and generally men, have been dropped with just a stamp on their passport. They've got no land, they've got no language, they haven't got traditional tatau, they've got big, gang affiliated things. So a lot of the time they don't get taken seriously. And so when somebody's asking questions in a way that's genuine and authentic, I guess it just broke down some of the barriers.
Whoever needed a place to stay, or somebody who's lost who needed somewhere to go to, our house was an open house for everybody.
Her passion for grassroots storytelling is not easy.
I think one thing that I've been thinking about recently a lot is you make a film, it goes out to the world, people like it or not, it's kind of treated as, content. What it doesn't capture is all the time that was spent, because you're condensing a huge amount of time into a small amount of time.
I can't imagine that I would have or could have done anything else than play music. I've been touring since I was in high school.
You're so cute.
Marlon Williams! Her new documentary's been over 4 years in the making. It follows Māori artist and musician Marlon Williams on his journey to write an album in Te Reo, Ngā Ao e Rua, Two Worlds. Something she has navigated all her life.
My nana was born in Vāmoso. We've got ties to Awhenga. My great-grandmother was from Soluafata, and my mum was born in Apia. That's not people's first assumption about me, and that has created barriers in the past because I am white passing. So I think it takes a conversation often to know that I'm on the same level and the same, just understanding.
The doco was beautiful to watch.
Thank you.
And I feel that it resonates not just with Māori, but with anyone like yourself and myself.
Yeah, I think with stories like that, and also watching Marlon, diving back into a world, and often, so often is the case that diving back into your heritage, culture, lost languages, it's not commercially viable to do that. And so, you have to carve out time and space physically to kind of have those connective moments.
What do you want out of this?
What do I want? I want a feature film about me, to see what I look like.
Yeah.
I only did it because I love her work, and I just respected the way she approached things, going into it. She's very straight up and down, very committed to her vision of things. And I definitely, if I was ever going to do anything like this, it would have to be with someone who's strong in what their kaupapa is,
The doco is accompanied by Marlon's lilting voice and waiata from his new album, Te Whare Te Weka Weka, A House in Disarray, helping him in his te reo journey and inspiring others.
I think on one level I was using music as a third rail to help me into te reo Māori, it's because music's a language I play with a lot. It's the most natural first language to me, really.
The album will resonate with many Pacifica as well as Māori for those on a te reo journey.
It definitely helps to fill a void of not knowing Samoan sometimes, to connect with te reo and te ao Māori, because there are so many similarities. Tasi lua tolu wha lima ono whesu walu e te wholo. There is a connectedness there around Te Moana Nui a Kiwa that is pretty evident.
Did it get easier along the way?
No, it just gets harder. The more you know, the less you know. There's just so much to learn. I still feel very much at the beginning of the journey. So, but I feel proud that Komi and I have compiled this bunch of songs and that they're in the world now.
I know with a lot of us non-speaking, I mean, I always get pulled up with mispronunciations, and then I get mocked, and then it makes me not want to, and I hate that, you know.
You get cut both ways, you know. It's terrible.
What would be your advice to, you know, Māori and Pacifica kids who want to write in their reo? What's your advice to them?
My advice to them would be look at the English language when it comes to songwriting. It can be the most simple language, you know. It doesn't matter where you are on your journey.
There has been some really beautiful moments of growth for myself as well during the filming of Ngā Aotearoa Two Worlds, yeah. I heard that he was truly making this album in Te Reo Māori, and he was placing his attention towards that, and I thought that's the one. I felt like this is something that needs to be documented for the rest of Aotearoa, because it's going to be, knowing Marlon in his cheeky, funny, intelligent way, it's going to be uplifting in a way that hopefully motivates other people to put their attention on, you know, what parts of themselves might be missing.
I want to keep writing in Te Reo. I got a whole bunch of different ideas and different directions for
Do a
Te Reo
duet
to go.
with a Pacific Islander artist?
Yep, that's on my list now. It's just been bumped up.
Swana said you have to.
Yeah. It's priority list.
Kiari peka haramai.
Tahua Marlon, congratulations. Well, that's the end of our show. Blessed weekend, especially to our kids taking part in the Whakame or White Sunday this weekend. Now, if you want to see any of our stories again or the latest Pacific news, go to tpplus.co.nz or TVNZ Plus. Haka he tai lahi lele, malo au pita hopo mea mai hou e ki pia mo kakai whanua, ka mou mea, ka kite.
To our new homebound, Tangata Pacifica, born a people proud, people of the sun.